it's good that we chose 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning to start this live, which means that people will wake up and they'll have some nice, friendly advice on how to how to achieve their global talent visa.
Absolutely.
So I'll quickly just outline EP and what we do in case the people watching don't know. So we like help with global talent visa, and generally we're helping people to get jobs across different areas of industry, and generally to the UK. And today we're going to be talking about global talent visa, and particularly Lisa, our global talent expert, and not just expert, but like 2 times expert, knows absolutely everything, will be walking us through the details of the new updates for 2024.
Thank you.
And yeah, question and answers, and hopefully we can cover everything. We have a list of things we're going to go through. And Lisa, do you want to give like briefly overview of like global talent visa? What is it, and what are the updates like generally for 2024?
Yeah, so global talent visa is probably the most flexible, most nicest visa that UK has on offer for professionals, for skilled workers, for entrepreneurs. It's the visa that gives you all the options to do whatever you like in the UK. You can work, you can go set up your own business, you can do consulting, you can do anything. So the most flexible visa, not attached to anything. While it is hard to get, they're only giving away thousands of visas a year. It's still possible. We successfully get our clients.
Which in comparison to the general visas is like 800,000 a year.
Yeah.
So it's a big difference, right?
It's less. But in my opinion, we've been doing this visa now for 6 years. In my opinion, if you know exactly what the caseworker is the person who is looking at your application, is looking for, it is not a rocket science. And we have some clients even who come to us a year before they want to apply, and we build the case with them to be able to apply in 1 year, and they get endorsement. So as long as you understand how the document pack should look, it's not difficult to prepare the documents. And obviously you need to qualify or not. We have on our website a test where you can see your chances. But generally it's if you have chances, it's not so complicated as long as you know how to do it. And I think overall the big switch that happened specifically for Tech Nation has been in the refocus from letters of recommendations. So taking a step back, to get the visa, you have 6 endorsing bodies. So these are the like institutions that decide whether you are talented or not. Really, right?
Lisa, are they official government bodies or they're separate?
No, they are. So it's Arts Council, Tech Nation, the Royal Society. So it's like a society that is providing information to the government, to the Home Office, but it's not a governmental body. So it's like an institution that is responsible for everything related to art in the.
But they're the ones that make the final decision.
Yes, they make the final decision.
And they also are they the people that you communicate with throughout the process as well, or is it also government?
To be honest, you don't communicate with anyone throughout the process. You just send your document and you get an email saying yes or no. This is how the process goes. If you go to appeal, so the visa is you get the visa in 2 stages. First stage is endorsement. You send the pack, they assess it, they send you literally an email saying yes or no. Then you have 2 times to appeal, and if you get the endorsement, you apply for visa like a normal procedure at Home Office. So there is nothing extraordinary. But yeah,
the endorsement is really the important thing. If you get the endorsement, then the application to the visa is straightforward. And we made some notes, like there are these standard things like letters, CV, personal statement, but there are also these like evidence pieces. Do you want to explain what is this magic evidence, and what does it mean also for these different like industries?
Absolutely. So when we are talking about document pack, usually for all the 6 endorsing bodies, we submit roughly around 15 documents always. So the 3 letters of recommendation, the CV, the personal statement. Technically personal statement is copy pasted into the application form, but we count it as a separate document. And then there is 10 evidence pieces. I would say evidence pieces are the most mysterious documents in this 15 document pack, because letters of recommendation, there are very clear instructions for every endorsing body, what to write there, who can write it, what is the structure, etc. But for evidence pieces, despite the fact that there is a lot of information available online, it's very vague. And all of our clients are struggling with evidence pieces. So I think today will be cool to focus on that. Evidence pieces, these are 10 documents, usually could be 9. I think we've never applied with less than 9 documents. It says up to 10, but usually it's 9 or 10. Each document of evidence pieces has to be up to 3 pages for Technation, and I think Royal Society and Arts Council have 2 pages. You need to check.
And Technation, what jobs are people doing for when they go through the Technation?
Yeah, I will. So up to 2 or 3 pages. So imagine you have a PDF 10 PDF documents, each 3 pages. So in total, 30 pages you have, and that's when it becomes very technical. So forget letters of recommendations, and honestly, Technation, this is our main endorsing body in terms of our clients. We do get endorsements from Royal Society, Engineering and Arts, but Technation is a bigger proportion. With Technation, you basically don't even know where to start. With Technation, it is actually quite easy. Someone asked us a question about what are the general requirements. So I'm going to throw in some technical words onto you, Andre, and our audience. To qualify for this visa, there is mandatory criteria to qualify and optional criteria. What is mandatory criteria? Mandatory criteria is for the caseworker who takes your application, is to see, are you actually a talent? So it's like a grand scale yes or no. What is included here? Obviously, they assess your career history. They look at your background, what you did, the companies you worked for, or maybe startups you created and everything. But they also look at your, let's say, personal brand. Have you had any awards? What is your kind of contribution to the field overall as a professional? And for mandatory criteria, so there's mandatory criteria. This is just a normal, I would say out of 10 evidence pieces, we usually dedicate 2 documents for mandatory criteria. So this would be like, okay, I'm really...
They're like establishing the candidate as a talent.
Exactly.
And so can you just quickly, just because I have this question that maybe people were thinking, Technation, what type of candidates are applying to Technation? Just to give an example.
Yeah, so Technation is endorsing body that endorses professionals in the tech field. There are 2 subcategories. There is business tech, which is marketing managers, salespeople, so non-technical people that work for technical companies. So it's very important, the word technical, product-led businesses. So if you are working for a bank as an analyst, it's very, very unlikely you can get endorsement by Technation. But if you're working for Miro in Berlin or whatever, you can get endorsed. So your company, your employer, or your own company that you've created has to be product-led. So they cannot be outsourcing IT services. They cannot be banks. They cannot be FMCG. They cannot be just services, legal services. Has to be tech. This is the number 1 question.
And to like tech at the front of the field.
Yeah. No, it can be, to be honest, any company. We had people who are just starting with their startups. We have people who work for more established product-led businesses. It's any technical companies that fundraise, that do something SaaS, ed tech, HR tech, any kind of tech, to be honest. So it's very broad. However, there are exceptions, and Technation hates people coming from consulting or something like this, but we had cases when, and it's written in the guidelines, if you work for non-product-led business, but you have a very niche expertise. I give you an example. Our client, he was working for metals and mining company. You would think never ever can he qualify to get this visa. but he was an AI specialist that is literally revolutionizing the heavy metal industry and introducing AI technology to optimize the processes. And he was at conferences, he won awards, he did a patent. So in this sense, this is the exception to the rule, where even if you don't work for product like, but you're very technically niche, you can still apply. And the second subcategory is technical people. So these are all software developers, any kind of engineers, very technical guys working for tech companies. So this is another bit. And Tech Nation, there's division between promise and talent. So talent is someone we usually just count by the number of years of experience. So if you have more than 5 years of experience, you are talent. If it's under 5 years, you are promise. A lot of people think if you apply for promise, your requirements are lower, but it's not the case. Honestly, for promise, you need the same amount of conferences, articles, thought leadership, or contributions or impact. I will go into that now. It's not as high. So if you are talent, if you are providing confirmation of your conferences, you've got to be keynote speaker. If you're promise, you can just be a speaker. So that's the difference. But the essential, let's say, requirement is the same. So you have mandatory criteria, the 2 documents, and then there are 4 optional criteria. I think here it will make it more clear for viewers. So 4 optional criteria. Number 1 is innovation. What have you done innovative in your field? OC2 is activities outside of your occupation. What have you done outside of your job and your company? Very important. Here, what it is. It could be you are part of a big mentorship scheme somewhere outside. You've done keynote speaking. You've been a judge at the panel. You've had you won, I don't know, hackathon, gameathon, anything technical where you kind of did something outside of your job. Some people come to us and say, well, I'm mentoring employees in my company. No, this doesn't qualify. They specifically want, if it's mentorship, to be part of an organized, structured mentorship program where you have to be selected to be a mentor. This is also very important. So optional criteria: 1, innovation; 2, activities outside occupation; 3 is impact. This is usually what we tell our clients: think of numbers. Have you increased revenue? Have you, as an entrepreneur, raised money? Have metrics for your SEO performance marketers get really good endorsements by Tech Nation? Have you increased website viewers by 1,000%? Did your product have 1 million downloads on App Store, etc.? So anything that is very tangible, very quantitative kind of achievement in your field. Could be screenshots from Stripe, from Apple Store, could be contracts. If you're in sales, how much money you've attracted to the company. We had a recent sales case from Brazil. The guy was, he was just signing up huge clients in his field. And that is the evidence. We were showing the contract pages where the amounts were shown. And the 4th one is scientific. It's very rarely argued, but it is argued. Scientific is someone where you basically have maybe developed a patent, and did some scientific research in your field. We had clients like this. So someone who we had a client who developed a medical device alongside his work as a product manager. So he was doing like proper academia research and so on. So this is also possible. A lot of people focus on OC2, which is activities outside occupation, and all these conferences, articles, and everything. But I honestly can say this is one of the biggest changes in Tech Nation since last year. The bar for arguing OC2 is so high at the moment that unless you are really, we've just recently got endorsement for a lady in Germany. I mean, this girl, she had She's been a judge on every panel of every competition in her field in Germany. She's been on national TV several times. She won all scholarship and governmental funds in her field. Within her, she's in gaming within her field. So that's the bar. Literally, keynote speaker at large conferences. To get the visa, you have to satisfy mandatory criteria and 2 of the 4 optional criteria. We usually argue innovation and impact. These are the 2 criteria we usually argue. With innovation, what could it be? You are product manager, you came to a company when they are developing a product, and you realized that this feature can be a game changer for this product. So you, as a product manager, created a new feature for the product. That feature was later on discussed in press as a cool, innovative thing there. Or you've implemented something internally in your company that was a massive game changer for the company and changed the course and help them fundraise, etc. Any kind of proof of before and after. This is really important. With innovation, before you was like this, now it is like this. Sometimes we also argue if you have any kind of collaborative projects on GitHub and you do innovation there, you come up with something. And then we had a guy who had, I think, 1 million downloads of his development in open source. So any kind of things like this. And impact, like I said, impact could be even any kind of commercial shares that you have in the company. So that also shows you as a valuable employee, and you're like, okay, I have shareholder agreement, like employee shares, doesn't matter. We've done that before. So usually 3 documents per optional criteria. So you have 3 documents for OC1, 3 documents for OC3, and then 3 documents for MC. So this is the distribution.
So 3 mandatory, 6 optional, and then those 6 optional,
usually optional,
6, 7 optional, and they're hitting normally 2 out of the 4 criteria for optional. Do you want to just briefly, Lisa, maybe it's useful as well, can you explain like when somebody would not be a suitable candidate for global talent visa? Like, let's say, like, you know, somebody who's quite also capable in their field and they're doing quite well in their job, but what would be the things that immediately you say you're not at this level yet?
I would say we usually look at, we have like a table which we ask our clients who qualify to fill in. And usually you are looking for, so to be able to create one evidence piece document that is 3 pages for Tech Nation and let's say 2 pages for Royal Society. You need to fill this document in. So let's say if you're creating a document for innovation, you would be talking about the project you worked on in 2-3 pages. So it has to be quite a substantial project, or you put 2 projects together. So then if we put 2 projects in one 3-page document, we need at least 1 more project to put in another, and then 1 more project to put. So to fill in 9 pages, that's the content we need for each of the optional criteria. The same with conferences. 1 conference is never enough. So in OC2 or mandatory criteria, we are looking at participation in 3-5 good conferences, 5 articles, mentorship schemes, anything like that. The same with impact. It has to be different documents showing your impact. Sometimes people come to us and they don't understand really what they can use, and then we brainstorm with them. We're like, okay, do you have access to Figma? Can you screenshot Figma where you develop this interface? We had a product designer and he was doing literally icons for a massive tech company, and he won awards for it. Like, it could be as small as icons that you've developed, but because it was such a game changer for the company, and we could show that he brought millions in this change for the company and also won awards, it kind of makes sense then when you look at it like this. So I would say you need to have enough little pieces to create those 30 pages. So think of always 30 pages for technician and 20 pages for others. What can you put in there? Talking about non-technician evidence pieces, let's say you are a doctor applying for Royal Society or engineering, you're a scientist or anything like that. Their evidence pieces are usually, let's say if you're a scientist, that would be a copy of your PhD degree, because for one of the routes, that's mandatory criteria. It is your scientific publication. So for scientists, there is a thing that is called ResearchGate or Google Scholar, where they pull every article with your name in there, like a scientific article in proper journals, scientific journals. So screenshots of that, links, a kind of list of all of your publications, any conferences you've done. We had a very, very cool, interesting case of a surgeon and also a crazy scientific innovator in one. So he was a surgeon that was doing great things in his field, but he was also simultaneously innovating the technique and documenting it scientifically in all the journals and publications. So we had really hard time deciding which endorsing body to apply, because it's kind of science, but also medical thing. And it was a great case. And he was also even in tech a little bit, because he created devices for non-invasive surgery. So, I mean, this guy was like really is one of the biggest inspirations. And you know what happened? And then he decided to be a film producer. So he's studying in the UK now to become a film producer. And he succeeded in 2 medical fields. So he was a neurosurgeon, then he was cardio surgeon, completely accomplished, created crazy techniques. And now he's like, okay, I've had enough with medicine. I'm going to just do filming now. So.
Okay, so actually it's an important question, Lisa. So when people come here on the Global Talent Visa, when they come, you just mentioned that he then switched fields. So that's then allowed. They can then switch fields once they get the visa.
Good question. The films that he was making were related to medicine. So it was, let's say, arty film about a little girl that has a heart surgery and like everything she's going through, etc. Technically, you have to stay in that field, because if you want to apply for indefinite leave to remain after 3 years on talent and 5 years on promise, you have to provide kind of income that you've received in your field. But it's very vague there, so you could be a little bit more flexible.
Yeah, I guess it's the important thing is at the point of application that it's very credible, and then there's room for flexibility in what you do once you're here, because you're a talent in the field anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, Lisa, we also have, I think you've given a good overview. Can I try and give it back to you and you tell me if I'm right or wrong?
Yes, do it.
Okay. All right. So I'm talented in my field. It could be medical, it could be tech, and within tech, it's typically technical people or non-technical people in a technical company. Yes. And this is normally like, advanced fintech or IT, new products. So I'm one of these people in the field. And then to apply, I need normally a number of documents. And these documents, they cover 2 things. So first of all is mandatory documents, which establish me as like somebody credible in the field. And normally that means that I've been like going to conferences for a while and presenting. I've like published a number of papers, or I've developed something extremely innovative, or I've changed the nature of business substantially, like, 10x to 100x, or increased revenue by $1 million or 2-3 million, whatever it is. And then the optional documents, which establish across 4 different fields, of which we need to pick 2 is it 2 as a minimum, or 2?
No, you
can do 3 or 4.
You cannot argue more. You can provide more documents, but they will be assessing you against 2 criteria.
Okay, so it's two criteria which you have to pick, which we normally within EP we normally pick innovation and
impact.
Okay, so we do innovation and impact. And then you send an email with everything attached to the endorsing body, which is a separate company from the government. And
an application. They have like an online application, like for a job.
Yeah, and then you get basically back yes or no. So it's a very simple process actually. And then after that, if you get a no, you said you have 2 appeals. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then if you get rejected twice,
Let me tell you an example of an appeal. So when they're actually really good. Funny story. Up until March 2023, Andre, believe it or not, we've never had a no. So up until March 2023, I have never seen a document which explains why there is a no. And then in March 2023, when allegedly Tech Nation was closing, we had such a big inflow of candidates, and the bar went crazy high. So naturally, we got rejections. And this was the first time I actually saw the document which explains the why they rejected. And it's actually a really detailed document. So how it looks, it says mandatory criteria, yes or no. Optional criteria, yes or no. So it basically the yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. And then there is like a field like this where a caseworker actually writes in his own words why they didn't endorse you for a specific thing. It could be as simple as we had one guy from Nigeria, he was applying and we applied him under promise. He had under 5 years of experience. And he was rejected for the visa because the caseworker said he has more than 5 years of experience. And since he's talent, the bar is higher, he doesn't qualify. But he didn't have more than 5 years of experience. The caseworker miscalculated the years because 1 year was during studies and this year doesn't count. So he actually had 4 years and 1 year part-time internship experience that they counted. So you send a letter saying, I'm sorry, thank you very much, we really appreciate it, but this, I think there was a misreading of the experience. He actually has 4 years. And then you can get as simple as, oh, okay, sure, then he's endorsed. That's it. In some cases, it could be much bigger explanation, like, for example, your mentorship does not qualify because it's not a structured program. Your conferences are very small and they don't know them, and it's not known in the field. Your innovation is not really innovation because it was only internal and it didn't do anything for the industry. So they actually explain to you what is wrong, and then you can take this information and apply second time.
And what are the
The good thing with endorsement, it's not an immigration application. So it bears no impact on your visa history. You can apply for endorsement 20 times if you want to. It's just a matter of your cash paying for endorsing. That's it. And the endorsement fee is like £500. So yeah, that's it.
And what generally speaking, when we've had the no's, what are the like approximate, like, do people typically then get a yes, like in general, not just with us, but in general, does it change to a yes frequently, or is it like 50-50? What's
no, I would say it so in our case, when we in March, we had a number of clients and we said, okay, we got, let's say we got 10 no's, and from this 10 no's in that month, we said, okay, we're going to reapply for half of those people, because from the appeal, from the performer, you could see that you could rewrite some documents to satisfy this criteria. For example, in March, when we were applying, it was still the time when in evidence pieces, we could supply additional reference letter. So you have 3 mandatory reference letters and you can put 1 more reference letter in the evidence pieces. This now has changed. They don't want to see it. They actually write, the letters of recommendations are really nice, but we only need 3. So sorry, but you don't qualify. So then when we looked at the case, so out of 5 people we've applied, all of them got endorsement. So I would say, answering your question, 50% can if there is something technically wrong with the application. Another example I can give you, we had a crazy big entrepreneur that set up 5 companies, fundraised millions of pounds, got 2 appeal rejections, not with us, with another company. And he came to us and said, look, guys, I've applied, I've done 2 appeals with another company, and I still get a no. And you look at his case, and it's 1,000% yes. And we were like, okay, let's look at what the initial application is And what are the appeals? First of all, initial application was created. I am not gonna talk bad about other companies, but the initial application just didn't do what they asked to do. The guy had a lot of thought leadership. He published a lot of articles in his field in fintech. How they presented it, they just put links of the articles in a line in the document. And official requirements for this document is you have to provide screenshots of the article, you have to provide context of this article, you have to include the link and not hyperlink, but the whole link. I don't know why, but this is the requirement. So it's just pure technical details that they didn't know. And then the appeals, Andre, you as a British person would appreciate that, sounded something like this. I am sorry, but your caseworker is completely wrong. He couldn't do his job properly, and it was absolutely horrible decision making on your side. We are very disappointed. So we were like, oh my God, you don't do that in Britain. You don't do that. You cannot write like this in Britain. So we basically took his case, rewrote all 15 documents, and he got endorsement, I think, in 6 days. Usually it's 12 weeks,
Wow.
but he got endorsement in 6 days. So this is totally possible.
Okay, interesting. All right, Lisa. So I think we've given a very comprehensive overview.
We were like, I think it was a bit chaotic, but I hope guys who are listening or will be listening later, you are a little bit in the topic, so you actually understand what we are talking about.
No, I'm sure anyone still watching has an idea what is global talent visa.
Yeah.
Lisa, there were some questions, like small questions. Can I throw them at you?
Yes, sure.
One person asked, I mean, we kind of covered it, but like, if you're a doctor or scientist, typically which category is that?
It doesn't really matter. We often apply under 2. So we have a wrong answer. You can combine in your evidence pieces both. So just pick one where you feel you have the most. So let's say if you are a doctor, but you do a lot of research in academia, I would apply for academia if you don't really do anything spectacular in your field. But if you are a doctor that is after you is named a technique in surgery, then maybe you go here, right? So
Okay.
you just need to do case by case. You can do both. It's not a problem.
Yeah. Okay. One other question people had was minimum requirements in terms of conferences, and also conferences. Just to repeat the point, it's not conferences you attended; it's conference that you're speaking at.
Absolutely. So let's do it like this. Out of 10 clients we work with, we argue optional criteria 2, where the conferences are, 2 times out of 10, because the bar is so high. But it doesn't mean that if you've been to a couple of conferences and have written articles, you cannot use this information. Then if we don't argue OC2, we take the documents from OC2 and we put them into mandatory criteria documents. So we say, look, I'm a cool guy or a lady or they, and I have applied for, I'm applying for talent, and this is my kind of activities. But you're not specifically arguing OC2. We would argue OC2, like I said, for a recent German case, German lady, if you have been a judge, a jury, a winner of hackathons, if you are actually part of a Y Combinator mentorship panel or something like this, if you've done courses, educational courses, if you've been keynote speaker. So 2 years ago, any speaker would work. Right now, it has to be a good conference and you have to be on the main stage. And you have to have proof. You have to have photos. You have to have photos of you on stage, which is usually not a problem with conferences. If you've recorded some courses for someone, we had that as well. Actually, an interesting case. So we had a technical person who was working for a big tech company. And he was a lecturer at university inside of this corporation. And when he was one of the people we applied in March, and in the rejection letter they said, the courses that you do as a lecturer are great, but they are only targeted at employees of this specific company, which means you cannot argue that as a activity outside of your occupation. But this school was open to anyone in the industry, and we could prove from other stories of people who attended and social media and everything that he actually impacted much larger community in thousands and hundreds of thousands, and not just employees. And then he got endorsement. So it's the little details. The caseworker might look and say, oh, okay, you are working for Yandex, you're a curator there, well, you're just helping Yandex, who cares? But you're like, no, actually, no, I am doing this and this and this, and this school is attended by 100,000 young, ambitious data scientists, and I'm helping them. And this would be also OCT.
So it's a pretty important point, actually, to emphasize that everything you do with a global talent visa needs to be community driven, right? It has to be, it can't just be, I did this by myself and it was all about me. It's really about, and this is, I guess the best way to say it, global talent visa is about bringing a talent to the business, to the country that will help the country, right? So they're not looking for someone to come and develop their own, well, of course you develop as well your own career, but they're not looking for.
Very, very cool remark, because in letters of recommendation, one of the paragraphs that the referee talks about the talented person is answering the question, how will this person help UK economy? So they have to reply. And that's why an AI person that works in metals and mining field has a good reason to come to the UK, because he will impact metals and mining industry in the UK, and this are his plans, and here are his job offers and or interview invites. We even had a case of one very in-demand product manager, and we showed he had like 3 job offers and like 20 final rounds of interviews at like biggest tech companies in London, which shows he's in demand professional and people want him, but not every company can do visa for him. So this is the reason for him to apply for global talent.
Yeah, okay. One other question somebody asked, what are the chances to get a visa if you're like a financial analyst or financial advisor?
0, pretty much. In Tech Nation, okay, if you are a financial analyst that has a PhD in finance and have been doing scientific research in finance for the past 5 years, publishing articles on ResearchGate and whatever scientific journals, you have a chance for sure. But it has to satisfy those criteria. PhD, active research position at university, you have to have publications, and so this would be the criteria.
So one way to think about it, if you're not sure kind of whether you're a talent and you're really established in the field, the chances are you're probably not ready yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you're talking about Tech Nation with financial analysts, we had successful cases with venture funds, but it's usually at the partner level. So you don't apply as an analyst. They specifically tell you there in the guidelines, like it has to be a partner level person that applies.
Okay. And last question was, is there anything that people need to do? I mean, let's say somebody thinks they're ready and they're working with us, or even they're doing themselves. What do they need to do to start preparing the portfolio? Is there anything they need to do, or is it just there's nothing really to do? It's just like you present yourself as you are, or do people need to think, I'm going to apply in 6 months, I should now rush and do X, Y, Z to try and to increase my chances?
For Arts Council, for example, very often it's exhibitions. So a lot of clients that come to us and they don't have exhibitions, they take time before application to arrange those exhibitions. Again, this is one of the criteria. For some people, it could be like you need to start thinking. That's what usually happens when people come to us for the 25-minute to meet, to the 25-minute call. I kind of push them to start thinking in that box, global talent box. What evidence do I have? Okay, I've made an impact in my previous company. I don't work for this company anymore. How do I get evidence of me increasing their sales? then you have to come back to your colleagues, ask them to, I don't know, screenshot something or send you the documents or something like this. So you just need to think of a very tangible, like when we're talking about evidence pieces, it's always something very visual and very tangible. It's not just text in those documents. It's always screenshots, some visual parts of, I don't know, screenshots of videos, of YouTube videos, of photos, screenshots of Stripe, anything, Apple Store, to kind of, it's like a story you say and you tell. And I think important to know is a caseworker is just a normal person there sitting. They might not be super qualified in your field. They might not know anything about your field. It is actually that. So what you need to do, you need to start building your story. And you have to make it so clear to the person, like with example of the internal school, that this school is not just internal. You have to tell that story of a big impact you make to the community and to the industry.
So we have to assume pretty much at every stage that the people reviewing it will know nothing, and that we have to explain everything. Everything has to be
100%.
yeah. Which means that if people are trying to prepare for the portfolio before applying, the best thing to do is to get everything, absolutely everything.
Look, another example of the guy who got 2 times rejection, an entrepreneur. They provided one document with 3 screenshots of some shareholder agreements, which if you look at them, if you first time in your life look at this document with 3 screenshots of first, so imagine 3 pages, just 3 screenshots or whatever, photocopied document, just 1 page. You have no clue what that is. So the rejection letter said, guys, this document you provided, we don't know what it is. So provide context. Every document have to say, this is 3 screenshots of my shareholder agreements when I invested into 3 startups or whatever, £300,000. These are the proofs. You have to give context. The same about conferences, not just a photo of you. Say, this was a conference that took place on this and this date, was attended by so many people. I was covering this and this topic. This is the proof. Like, it's a little bit like job search, Andre. You know that. That's what we do, right? Imagine a person who is reading your CV or cover letter application form, knows nothing about you, and just providing them how you think, the screenshots, doesn't do anything for them. They will not, and they will not sit there for 3 hours staring at the 3 screenshots and trying to think, what does this mean?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we don't want to go on forever. Do you want to, Lisa? Do you want to maybe just re-summarize, especially like what are the differences this year, like between 2024 and before? Like, so just in case people also join later, what are the key differences now, and what, you know, like, so what do people need to really present now to be successful with this visa?
The focus switched from letters of recommendation to evidence pieces. Do not put additional letters of recommendations into evidence pieces. Create as many good quality evidence pieces with very visual storytelling documents where you explain what happens, and try to think, like you said, of a bigger impact that you've made and what that means. And of course, the application is about you and not the community, but try to little bit think of, it's a little bit like finding your achievements. Sometimes people are shy to say, well, I've done this. Don't be shy. This is not the place where you have to be shy. Try to pump up everything you can. Another example, we have now an arts client, a pianist, how do you say it in English?
Pianist, yeah,
pianist. Super young lady, absolutely extraordinary. And evidence pieces, again, some evidence pieces that she prepared is just literally screenshots without any context. And she's like an award-winning pianist that plays in the biggest halls around the world. And she's like 23, I think, which is like insane. And but again, it's a technical detail. So the last bit, understand what documents should look like and do exactly that. Don't try to assume that people will understand. Don't try to jam it all together without explanation. Don't just add things without a context. people need to understand fully what is in there by just looking at one document separately.
And actually, this is a really important point, because this is the same thing that we have at EP. We help with global talent visa. We help with general applications to normal visas. I mean, to get the job for normal visas, career consultancy. All of the clients that come to us asking for help, generally speaking, they are pretty amazing candidates, but they have this, and we all have it, this like blind spots in terms of how to present themselves. And I think it's very true for global talent visa as well. Do you want to explain it as well, Lisa? If people watching want our help, particularly your help, because this is your specialty, what should they do? Because we have a website. What do? They go to our website.
I'm going to send now in the chat, and we can always include that in the description when we post it on social media. So this our global talent page. You can go there. There's free assessment button throughout the page. You can always assess yourself if you qualify, and you will get good results. And how we work, we have 3 levels of support for global talent. The most popular is our full support package. So you come into us and we write everything for you, and we make application. Our lawyers make application for stage 1 and stage 2 on your behalf, which means you will give them the rights to make application on your behalf. And this is also very important, guys. If you're considering other companies, make sure you understand that no company that has no legal license is allowed to make visa application on your behalf. Only immigration lawyers qualified and certified in the UK are allowed in the UK to do the application for you. So full support, it costs 6,100. It includes all the letters, everything, stage 1, stage 2. Second most popular is our pro package. This is where we write 3 letters of recommendation, CV, and personal statement, and then we review evidence pieces. So this is exactly the case when you write evidence pieces yourself, and then we give you feedback on how you do it, and edit it and make it better. And we also have a 1-hour call. This is usually an option for people who are trying to build their case and they're not ready yet. So they come for 1 hour. We brainstorm, we set the goals, and we say, okay, you in the next 1 year or 2 years even need to do this, and that, and this is what you're going to be focusing on. This is how you're going to do it, and it works really well. This 1 hour consultation in terms of building. If you then buy any of our package, we deduct this 1 hour from the package.
Okay. All right, then I think that's everything for today. And
there is one question, Anna. Shall I show you here on the question?
Yeah, so thank you for the session. It looks like the process is not easy and feasible for the majority of applicants. Well, I think this is it's a great point, and it also is true. So actually, the global talent visa is not for the majority of applicants. Only, let's say, 2-3% of people will roughly be in this category anyway. I would say, like, ready to apply. The rest will go for his normal visa for the UK.
I think for scientists and engineers and kind of the more academia people, it's very straightforward. There, if you need to have PhD, yes or no? If you have PhD, good, 1 point. Second point, do you have an active researcher position? This is usually, are you a research assistant at a university or anywhere industry-wise? 3, do you have 2 letters of recommendation from the UK in academia? And 4, do you have scientific publications? If you have that, and honestly, a lot of scientists in outside of the UK, they have that because that's part of their job. So they qualify. For Tech Nation and Arts Council, of course, it's more complicated, but again, it's a little bit, it depends on the type of person you are. There are employees of companies that are straight away from the beginning of their career building their personal brand. They go to conferences, they write articles, they invest time in that. So this is what differentiates between a candidate who's just a great employee of a company but never been doing anything publicly or innovative or outside of his work, and there is a person who is doing a lot naturally. And I think this is where the difference is. You either one or another.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think we should let people go back to their weekends. And
us too.
Yeah, us too. And then if people wanted to call you, they can go through and do the quiz on the website first, and then see if it's worth having a discussion with us, and obviously the details of what we offer on the website as well.
Perfect.
So thank you everyone for joining us.